I saw the film, and it seems very like undisputable to me, like very what perspective can be changed about
different approach to the Holocaust. That's what I would say. Why would I say that this film? How did you say?
Still life in Lodz gives way to discussion, and can even help change perspectives.
Yeah, the film can help to change perspectives because my approach to the subject of Holocaust in this particular film is different than in many other films. Even films I did myself. I did over a dozen of films which deal with subject of Holocaust and Polish-Jewish relationship. In this film, I go into the subject of memory and subject of objects. And through memory and objects, we can look at the Holocaust from a different perspective. We can not only evaluate the past, but also bring some new elements into today's life.
In the film, the objects take a special relevance. Not only the painting that in a certain way starts the film, but the menorah, the piano, and other objects. It's like full of objects, and that makes me think of this very popular philosopher, Byung-Chul Han, which has recently released a book named No Things, No Cosas in Spanish. I don't know in German. I think it's originally written. In that book, the author theorizes about what he considers to be the loss of value of objects in the digital age. Do you think that the current state of hyperconnectivity and the digital age are causing objects such as the ones you portray in your film to lose their emotional connection value? Are we losing that connection with objects?
Definitely, yes. I would answer your question. Yes, and I agree with the philosopher who said that in today's world, the world of internet, world of multimedia approach to reality, we lose connection with the past, and through losing connection with the past, we lose connection with today's world. In my film, I show how important it is to touch objects which your grandparents or great-grandparents touched or used before when they were alive. It's about smell. It's about all these elements of our senses which cannot be found when you sit in front of the computer. The sense of smell. You walk into the space where your grandparents used to live, or your father or mother used to live, and it didn't change much. Sometimes it did, but in my case, in the case of this still life film, it didn't change much. The same sense of the noise on the street, so you have all the senses which combine our person, our personality. We're built with senses. We're built as we were born to see things, to touch things, to smell things. And if we don't go through this experience, we're not in the real life.
How did you meet Lilka and her story, and how was the process that led you to shoot the movie?
Yeah, 10 years before this movie was completed, I met Lilka because she was part of another film I did also in Łódź called The Pereczniks. The Pereczniks was the story of the last Jewish school in Łódź, which lasted till 1968 when the school was dismissed because most of the people left Poland as a result of the anti-Semitic situation. And this is the first time I talked to her. Then, 10 years later, she came to me and said, oh, I have a story I would like to share with you. Maybe you will be interested. And at that time, I was busy with another film, so I told her, you may try with my friend who is also interested in this kind of subjects. And she did, and for a year they worked together, but it failed, it didn't work, it didn't go through. So she came back to me and said, let's try, maybe I can interest you with this story. And it did, mainly because it is an unusual story. It's not another Holocaust story which you can tell through Holocaust archival footage, which you can tell through interviews. It's a story of a painting which hung in one apartment for 75 years and was a witness of the history of Jewish people living in Łódź. So this thought gave me a feeling that I can create something different, something what could be appreciated by the audience.
Animation stuff before this film is something you do regularly?
Yes, I did use animation in my previous film called Karski and the Lords of Humanity. There's a little mark from this film about Jan Karski, a Polish hero who was trying to tell the world about the Holocaust, going into London and Washington D.C. talking to Roosevelt. So in the film about Jan Karski, I use animation, and then I got very interested in using animation in films in general, to the point that outside of my film career, I reproach my film school where I graduated from, a Polish film school, and I did PhD on the subject of using animation in documentary film. Now it will be turned into a book to help students in film school and art school to use animation in films.
Did you found any resistance inside academy? Because sometimes people think about documentaries like something that has to be very straight, very.
I found resistant when I work on a Karski film. I got pretty much rejections from all kinds of organizations, the same organizations which support this film. They didn't support the previous film because it was 10 years earlier. It was at the time where very few films used animation, and especially films on the subject of Holocaust. It was practically unknown. I would say whenever I applied to grants in Poland, to Film Institute in Poland, or different grant institutions in US, the main reason for rejection was animation. Even there was already Waltz with Bashir, well-known film.
I was about to ask you about
yeah.
movie.
This was the movie which obviously inspired me.
Wow.
And the movie, I even wanted to work with the director of animation, but of Waltz with Bashir, Yoni Goodman, but it didn't work out because he was busy with another film. At that time, 10, 15 years ago, I was a very different approach to animation in films. Today, people got used to it. They've seen so many films, so many awarded films, where animation is very well used to not only to support the story, but also to put the story on another level. Yeah, it became a norm, and at the time when I started my first film, Jan Karski and the Lords of Humanity, it was a unique approach, especially, like I said before, combining images of Holocaust archival footage with animation. When people heard about this, they said, "This is crazy. Yeah, this is not going to work." And now, after the film was released, after film was very successful, this argument was just opposite. It was the best what I could do. The film is much stronger because of this. It's kind of interesting. It's hard to explain when you write a proposal, when you write a script, to prove that something works until you see it. And that's what happened with this film on Jan Karski, because the moment when I created my own rough cut, and I was able to show it to funders, to producers, when they saw it, they said, "Wow, it works." But a year earlier, when I was writing about this, they said it will never work. So it tells you that there are certain things you cannot really explain by writing or by telling. There are certain things you have to show, to prove. That was my lesson.
As you pointed in your film, antisemitism seems to be a cyclical force that never stops repeating. What do you think it will take to end antisemitism?
When I was much younger, I thought through education we can help, we can teach, we can convince people, especially young people, the new generation. I think it never will stop. There is something again hard to explain why anti-Semitism exists, why some people need this for their philosophies to build their own personalities stronger, to point other people that anything what goes wrong with me or with my country is because of Jews. It did happen before, hundreds and hundreds years ago, and happens today, unfortunately, even more today. We all are afraid that the experience of Holocaust may not be over. We're all afraid that the new voices, very loud voices of anti-Semitism, can lead to something what unfortunately we went through. I'm second generation Holocaust survivor, but so many people who went through Holocaust are still alive and then can testify, and I do my best to testify through the films I'm doing. So answering your question, I don't think it will end. I think we have to deal with anti-Semitism and try our best to educate people, but at the same time knowing that there's a limit to it.
I understand that you now live in Puerto Escondido in Mexico. Well, this is a very complex country experiencing great and diverse problems. So would you consider making a documentary about something here in Mexico?
Yes, of course, I will. I'm finishing right now 3 films living in Puerto Escondido. I work on 3 projects which I started in Poland and in Europe and United States. I have editors in Europe who work with me. But after these 3 projects will be over, I have another one which is in my head, which deals with Mexico, and it could be the first one in many films to come. I don't know. I mean, it depends how long I will live. You know, that's that's always a limit to your work. But I wish to make films in Mexico. I wish to learn Spanish good enough to communicate with people, because that's my biggest problem right now. That in conversations with Mexicans, I need translators.
Have you decided the subject of that hypothetical movie, or can you tell us something about it?
The first project which is in my head is deals with the Mayan culture. Deals with people who live in either Oaxaca or Chiapas, who are Mayans, and I met one particular woman who could be a subject of my documentary. I don't want to reveal too much information, but I was very impressed with indigenous people I met. I was very impressed with, as much as I am impressed with Mexican people. I mean, this is the main reason why I'm here in Mexico, not because of beautiful beaches in Puerto Escondido.
Not because of the weather.
Not because of the weather, not really, because I've been to many countries with the same weather but the people I met. And so I was impressed with this particular story, and you know, maybe this could be my first foot into the Mexican documentary movie making. You need the first foot, a delicate foot, and from that it may grow into something bigger.
In addition to Jewish-related issues, you have made several films on environmental affairs. Are you optimistic about the willingness of nations to do what is necessary to stop climate change? Do you think we have still a future?
I don't think the governments are doing the best to save the planet. I don't think so. I think the governments are doing the best to be elected for the next couple of years and stay in power, and that's unfortunately at any issue we touch, including COVID. So, yeah, no, I'm not optimistic, but I believe in actions. I believe in one person who can change the world. I could say through films I did, I was able to change the small worlds which I was dealing with, and also in the subject of environment. I did one film, Fence Line, in United States, where I lived for almost 40 years, and through this film I was able to save one black community which was suffering tremendously from the presence of shell industry. So I believe in actions of individuals, either working for organizations, non-for-profit organizations, or within the government who can make a change. So I'm an optimistic person. I believe it can get better, but I don't believe governments will do it.
You said you wanted to say something about Jewish communities in Latin America?
No, the only thing I wanted to add to is that we're working with Jewish communities outside of Mexico to screen the film Still Live in Łódź. And so Basia, who is my wife and producer of the film, she's in touch with Jewish communities in Costa Rica, in Argentina, in Uruguay, and Chile, to organize screening of the film. Not in the movie theater right now, but at least online screenings, and hopefully at the end of January, during the International Holocaust Day. Maybe this would be a good day to show the movie in other countries.
The movie, will it be shown outside the Jewish world, like in general theaters? And
actually, starting from March of this year, it was shown in movie theaters in the United States. Yeah, there's a program of streaming movies, and 35 movie theaters was screening it very successfully. We had great reviews from major newspapers, New York Times and Los Angeles Times, and many others, and Jewish papers as well. So the film was very well received, but because of COVID, it didn't end up in big screen theater screenings, but it was shown through movie theaters. And Poland screened it a couple of times as well. And right now, one Polish television station got interested in the film, and probably next year, again on the Holocaust, on the International Holocaust Day, will screen the movie in Poland as well.
And what about streaming platforms like Netflix or Prime?
We will approach them as well. Yes, this pretty much is the time to approach them.
Is there any of your previous films in those platforms?
Amazon Prime.
Okay.
I have 7 films which I did, which are Amazon Prime. So when anyone will type my name, Sławomir Grünberg, you will find them there. One film is on Netflix, but only in Europe. That's Karski and the Lords of Humanity. And many films were shown on American television and European television. That's in the past. Currently is between Amazon Prime, Netflix, and television stations.
Do you want to say something else?
No, I just want to say, thank you to organizers of this event, and I just don't want to make a mistake and make sure that I mention Judy Stern and Comunidad Sefaradi and Embassy of the Republic of Poland, and they are behind organizing this event today. There are other organizations, Yad Vashem and others who are, and I know that ambassador of Israel in Mexico has confirmed his presence at the screening. So we're very happy that this is happening. In the midst of COVID, we have a theatrical premiere of the film in Mexico. Thank you.